Finally!
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. The offseason has officially begun for the Lakers, and with it will come plenty of rumors and speculation, and to no real surprise, there have already been a few light rumors that have linked upcoming free agents to the Lakers. And while I typically do not do videos on rumors that don't have a ton of reliable reporting behind them, I wanted to do a video on this one, mainly because I do believe it would be a good idea if the Lakers could pull it off, and the player I'm referring to them being linked to is Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott is by no means a high-profile player, but he did have a breakout year with Indiana. And while I say that he had a breakout year, that does not mean he was an all-star or anything, but he did have the best year of his career, averaging a little under 14 points a game while shooting a very efficient 53% from the field and about 39% from the three-point line. The 14 points per game will not wow anyone, but the efficiency at which he averaged those 14 points per game should catch your attention, especially if you are the Lakers. Because after having a year derailed by injuries and lack of offensive production at times, the Lakers will try to improve where they can in free agency. They do not have a lot of money to work around with, but they will definitely try to get a gem with the money that they do have. Barring any trades or big moves to free up more cap room, the Lakers will only have the mid-level exception and veteran minimum contracts to work with. They are practically already over the salary cap with the money that they have committed to LeBron, AD, Caldwell Pope, and Kyle Kuzma alone. Then when you add the cap holds that they have to all of their own individual free agents, many of which that they will likely try to bring back, that leaves them with little to no financial flexibility to add a free agent outside of using veteran minimum contracts or the mid-level exception. However, the problem with using the mid-level exception is that I would hard cap them again this year, which would once again make it very difficult to fill out their 15-man roster. It would be a headache to do so, especially with them not knowing how much money it will take to bring back Talen Horton-Tucker and Dennis Schroeder, both of which will very likely be brought back due to them not having the money to replace them, but it could be worth it to them if they would be adding a player like Doug McDermott. While there is no guarantee that the mid-level exception, which will be worth a little under $10 million this year and has a 5% annual raise, would be enough to get McDermott, I believe they should definitely offer it to him. McDermott made about $7 million per year with Indiana this year, so it would be a pay increase for him. Would it be enough to convince him to join them? Maybe not, but again, they really do need to add a player like him to their team. No, McDermott is not a good defender, but he is one of the better shooting wing players in the league, and most importantly, he can do it consistently. Because while the Lakers had a few good three-point shooters on their team this year by three-point percentage, they did not really have a player who was able to be a reliable three-point shooter for them throughout the entire year. But if Doug McDermott's track record gives any indication of what he can bring to a team, he could be that reliable shooter for them. He is a career 40.7% shooter from the three-point line and rarely goes cold for a long duration. He is your prototypical reliable wing shooter who also has more scoring talent than given credit for. Given that McDermott has played for the average, small market Indiana Pacers for the past 3 years now, he has often been a forgotten player in the NBA. And while I do think he was able to stand out in a big way during their first playing game against Charlotte, where he helped carry them to a big win while being without Karis LeVert, Malcolm Brogdon, and Miles Turner, I still think he is regarded as an under-the-radar player, which may play a role in how much money he is offered in free agency. He is undoubtedly a great shooter and good offensive player, but he is not a good defender, and he is already 29 years old too. For McDermott, those are a couple of things that may work against him from getting a big payday in free agency, but for a team like the Lakers, that could allow them to actually have a chance of even getting interest from McDermott. The mid-level exception may not be the best offer that he does get, but I don't think that he will get an offer that is significantly bigger than it either. So between getting a decent offer from the Lakers, along with the opportunity to join a championship contender, it would not be a bad overall offer. Whether or not he would actually take it is completely up in the air, but again, I do believe he is the kind of player that they need to try and get. I know there might be a few of you who may be completely against adding a guy like McDermott because of him being a poor defender, but it really is time that the Lakers find a reliable three-point shooter, even if it means giving up a little bit on the defensive end of the court. There are plenty of teams who are winning without being the #1 defense in the NBA. Even if the Lakers were to add a poor defender like McDermott, they would still very likely be able to be a top 5 defensive team, With a defensive-minded coach like Frank Vogel, along with having many other good defenders, I don't think adding one poor defender to help improve their three-point shooting would hurt them all that much on defense, but what it could do is maybe help solve their issues on offense. I think a really good example of that is by looking at how much a guy like Danilo Gallinari has helped improve the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, they do have other great players like Trae Young, but Gallinari really was a big addition to them. He is probably an even worse defender than McDermott, but what he has provided Atlanta on offense has really helped take them to the next level. You need role players like Gallinari, whose offensive game demands attention from the opposing team's defense and can help take pressure off your star players. And while McDermott is not quite on the level of a Gallinari, I think he is right below it, which would be good enough for the Lakers and can help give us a good estimate of how much money he might be offered in free agency. Gallinari got a 3-year contract from Atlanta that is worth around $20 million per year. Once again, Gallinari is a higher profile name than McDermott and has a better track record too, which helped get him that contract. Given that McDermott will also be around 30 years old when given his new contract and is not valued at the same level that Gallinari was when given his new contract, I think a good estimate of how much money McDermott could be offered is around $10 to $13 million per year on average, which although is a bit more than the mid-level exception, I do think it puts the Lakers in the ballpark for at least getting interest from him. And the thing is, if they would be willing to use the full mid-level exception again, which would hard cap them, they would likely be willing to do a sign and trade for him too. Given that both Kuzma and Caldwell Pope make around the same amount that McDermott will likely want, a sign and trade would not be out of the question either. I think both Kuzma and Caldwell Pope are highly regarded by the Lakers franchise, but both are far from being untradeable. At the very least, it could be something for them to keep in mind. And if they are going to consider trading either one of Caldwell Pope or Kuzma, a more reliable offensive player and three-point shooter like McDermott could be a good player to trade one of them for. In conclusion, even though the Lakers would very likely have to be hard capped again to get him, I believe they should definitely try to go after a guy like Doug McDermott. He would perfectly fit what they currently need on offense with his ability to be a reliable three-point shooter and his ability to score the ball. He is without a doubt a player that needs to be on their radar going into free agency. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Doug McDermott should be at the top of the list when it comes to players that the Lakers need to consider adding in free agency? Remember that they do not have a lot of money to work with, so a player like McDermott may be the highest profile name that they could get. But let me know what you think about the idea of adding Doug McDermott by commenting down below and we can talk about it there. That will do it for this video though. Thank you to everyone who took the time to watch until the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please remember to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications to get notified right away when I drop a new video. And if you want to stay up to date on all my immediate thoughts and moves around the NBA, be sure to follow me on Twitter too. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.